Good afternoon, my friends. This is the Grimflayer. Hope you're doing very well today, and we are here to play some Deadguy Ale, some Orzhov Stoneblade, whatever your preferred nomenclature. This is a two-color, black-white mid-range deck, and you know, it's not something I've featured all that often on the channel before. I've certainly played Abzan, maybe 4 times or so by now, but Deadguy, straight black-white, has only been featured twice, and one of those two was not even really me playing it. It was the Fjord generously narrating a replay of a collectively piloted Discord league whose recording went bad, right? So, as far as my traditional content featuring Deadguy, it's not something we've played very often. I do have some pretty significant thoughts, I think, to share on the list. Part of the reason I don't always opt for it is because none of the lists ever have really felt right to me. I've never looked at a Deadguy list and said, yep, that's the one, this one knocks it out of the park, I can't wait to pick that up. I love the archetype in theory, I love a lot about it in practice, but to me it still feels a little bit unsolved. So we're going to talk about all of that, but first we need to give a quick shout out to Adam Bush. Adam is the donor, the one who has earned this donation league, so big shout out. Thank you so much, Adam, for your support. Adam has been across the tiers in his time as a Patreon supporter. He has been Inquisitor, Confidant, tireless. We definitely love to see that. And Adam is a father of 2 young children in his 30s, and an essential worker. I gotta be honest, guys, relatable moment, very much relating to that. That kind of describes yours truly just as well as it does Adam. And so Adam had a pretty simple request. He wanted to see Skyclave Apparition in action, and we have accommodated that here. Adam also credits this channel for being his gateway drug, basically, into the BGX family. He picked up Rock after watching enough of my Golgari mid-range content, so we love that too. One final note on Adam and on the kind of origin of this archetype as a whole. The Deadguy Ale name, for those who don't know, is at least partially derived from the beer by the same name, the beer Deadguy Ale, that was apparently consumed in copious quantities while the brewers, not of the beer, but of the deck, of a really iconic black-white mid-range deck in early Magic, while they were working on such a list, and therefore the name stuck, kind of appending itself to all black-white mid-range decks. And Adam let the Discord know that there's actually a Deadguy whiskey, too. So we just wanted to pass that along in case anybody imbibes. Maybe you want to seek it out. Maybe you want to get in the right mental state for the content that you're about to see. But anyway, thanks again to Adam. Now, let's talk a little bit about my thoughts on Deadguy as a whole, and also how we came to the list that we're about to jump right into a league with here and now. Alright guys, so lots to like about Deadguy Ale. I think Stoneforge Mystic is a huge appeal to playing white, period, in a mid-range deck. Very, very high on the card, have been since she was unbanned. I also think that black and white interaction, or maybe in the case of white interaction and also hate, I think they're both pretty well positioned right now. So in theory, if the black-based disruption is well positioned, if the white disruption supplements it well, and if the hate pieces are well positioned, at least some of them, and if we also have a really top tier threat in the form of Stoneforge Mystic, I think in theory there's a lot to like about Deadguy. So those are kind of the strengths of the deck, right? And the structural idea behind the deck. The downsides, there are a couple. Number one, if you're playing cards like Tide Hollow Sculler, which at first I kind of felt priced into doing, there starts to be maybe an issue of lack of card quality. Because, Lingering Souls is strong in the shell, but has seen better days. Like drawing a path early, you have a higher wrong half of the deck problem compared to a more streamlined or a more non-white deck, and naturally drawing your equipment can be really bad too. So if you've got those severe non-bow issues, and you've also got a low card quality in places relative to other mid-range decks or shadow decks and things like that. And then on top of that, you've also got a clunk issue, which, make no mistake, Deadguy does. I think that is one too many points of potential failure for me to be really thrilled about the list. So I did some play testing. I got Q-sniped a few times by some of my patrons who, more often than not, actually beat me soundly. And that finally put the nail in the coffin with my initial draft featuring Tide Hollow Sculler. I was like, the card is just not doing it for me. So I went back to the drawing board, and I was saying, okay, we're definitely playing Skyclave Apparition. I think the card is strong enough to play, and also Adam wants to see it. I'm high enough on Bob to go all in on him. I'm also, of course, really high on Stoneforge Mystic. So how can we flesh out the deck without having to bring more subpar cards into the fold, and also without getting too greedy and too clunky at the top end? And the thing that occurred to me was, let's do everything all at once. Let's play more cantrips than you would otherwise normally think of in the form of Cling to Dust, which, number one, is a really good card in and of itself in black-based mid-range shells, especially ones where the life gain is pure upside. We're not trying to leverage Shadow or Scourge. Number two, this is not a greedy card. It is a one-drop instant. It is almost always live, almost always able to cantrip and replace itself, and also, on top of all that, offers X for 1 potential in the late game. And that mere act of cantripping early on is also going to smooth out the clunk. So not only have we not added to the clunk by getting greedy with adding more high curve stuff, we have also just given ourselves the chance to be really efficient in early turns, or to make sure we hit that third land drop by turn 3, for example. We are again trying to reduce the potential points of failure, and therefore trying to get more streamlined and really lean into the strengths of our deck. So to that end, I am playing a 5 Cling build. I am playing a full play set of Klings virtually, and then some, but we are not actually on the 4th Kling. We are playing 2 copies of Cremate instead, which is delightful to me. It's a really simple old bordered card. Old border, something I love very well, as you all know. And also, notably, not as strong as Kling overall, because it does not have escape and therefore can never really be a true X for 1. However, it has one important upside over Cling to Dust, and that is that you can tag a creature with Cremate and also draw a card. Unless we're against Burn, we're not really going to want to tag a creature with Cling to Dust under any but the most unusual circumstances. Even against Prowess, you would almost certainly rather have a card than 3 life most of the time. However, we are in a Lurrus companion meta, and it is very nice to take a creature that Lurrus could otherwise buy back out of the graveyard while drawing. That is where Cremate comes in. And we want to see pretty much exactly 1 Kling, because on top of everything else I just said, per game that is, really, the second Kling reaches diminishing returns relative to the first, because you're only going to ever have enough fuel to escape one of them. And if you have both of them, you're not really needing more than 1 copy. You can repeatedly escape that same copy. So I hope all of this makes sense in terms of how Kling effects in general can help smooth out the early turns while still playing a crucial and inherently justifiable role in a deck like this, and also why we are on a 3-2 split of Kling and Cremate rather than like 4 Kling and 1 Cremate, which would be fine, but we want to try Cremate out too for the reasons that I mentioned. So that's kind of what's going on with the deck. We've got 4 push effects with 3 push, 1 Bloodchief's Thirst, 1 Path to Exile. I'm also diversifying the Planeswalkers a little bit. Liliana of the Veil really shines when you're heavy into Lingering Souls, but we're not. We're only on 2 copies. Therefore, I have trimmed 1, bringing a Lily the Last Hope into the shell, which I think will be good. Also, like Veil would be alongside Souls, but in a different way, and it'll be nice to -2 because we have a relatively streamlined threat suite. We're interested in buying all of these back at different potential stages of the game, and you can blind mill into stuff like Cling to Dust as well. And Gideon, ally of Zendikar, which is a strong Deadguy L card, giving us a little bit of top-end power in that main deck, acknowledging the grindy and board presence-related nature of the format. Taking a look at the land base here, I have opted for 6 fetch lands because we do need more extreme white production than we usually would, maybe in pre-ZNR and before the current meta. We need double white by turn 3 for Apparition main deck, and we would even use double white by turn 2 in many post-sideboard games for these Auriok Champions. So to that end, we are just playing more fetch lands than as usual for a total of 6. I split Heath and Mire, Heath allowing us to go get basic planes in the face of certain things, and like Blood Moon and aggro decks basically, and also because we are playing an Urborg, which is going to make those planes and these silent clearings and these Fields of Ruin and these fetch lands all better and be another mana fixer for us here. Other than that, the land base is not overly ambitious, but we have also managed to include 2 copies of Field of Ruin, which I feel is about appropriate here. I would not like to leave home without them because they're very good against the MDFC combo decks and because we are not punting big mana. To that end, looking to the side, 3 copies of Fulminator Mage certainly has seen better days, but remains one of the best things this deck can do if we decide, yes, we are trying to put up a fight against big mana. I drew up a sideboard while kind of punting at least the Tron matchups. I would play a 3rd Ashiok that way to really try to lock down the Titan matchups, and then, just kind of close our eyes and try to outrace Tron, maybe without any Fulminators involved, but I looked at the sideboard with and without Fulmi and opted for the Fulmi. Also, I think Deadguy can leverage Fulminator against, for example, non-pile control decks pretty well. So I think there are just enough use cases for us to bring Fulminator back from semi-retirement. We'll see if he does anything for us here today. What else is in the sideboard we need to talk about? A second path to Exile. Revoke Existence is surprisingly important, I think, for this particular shell. Number 1, Heliod is in the meta, and Klothys is in the meta. Both of the, not as much as she used to be for the latter, but both of these cards really can dumpster us in a variety of ways. Revoke Existence will exile them, and therefore will be an answer to them, where destroy effects such as Disenchant would not be. Revoke is also, we lack the green-black removal, so it's just another disenchant effect, even when we don't need it specifically to exile. Finally, we are playing an unusual number of 1-drops for a Deadguy Ale deck, and therefore having a 2-drop answer to a Chalice set on 1 is definitely something that could come up. Speaking of Heliod, we are playing a Solemnity, which is a card that I borrowed from a couple, actually, recent Deadguy lists, and it's good against Hardened Scales and good against Infect, and might even come in against humans, amusingly, but really this is just kind of a hate piece for Heliod, while it is a trendy meta deck. I mentioned 2 copies of Auriok Champion. These are a slam dunk fit in the deck because Auriok Champion in general is well positioned, and when we can have our hate effects on legs to pick up a sword with, that is definitely really, really nice. Speaking of which, Plague Engineer fits that same exact role. Maybe not as well positioned as he's been in the past, but still an undeniably powerful effect. We have a Collective Brutality to assist the champions in those matchups where champion is good. We also have it to assist the removal spells when the opponent's going wide, and we also have it to assist the hand disruption plan when we need that against combo or control. 1 copy of Kaya Orzhov Usurper actually is kind of like a Collective Brutality in Planeswalker form in some ways. It's good when you need life gain, it's good when you need to disrupt certain things, in this case the graveyard, and it is also supplementary removal, and there are a lot of CMC1 permanents in the meta right now. And finally, Damnation is a card that has been calling my name a little bit lately. I've thought more and more about bringing it back in some kind of a mid-range shell. Seems like it might be better positioned than it's been in some time, and we're going to give that a shot here. I don't think I necessarily mentioned the swords, but we're playing Fire and Ice and Feast and Famine, which are by far my favorite too. And Feast and Famine in this deck is something that some people would say is up for debate. I don't really know if I agree. I think this is the strongest effect, and we are often going to really utilize that untap mode after the damage trigger resolves. And even if we're not, I really like going on the depletion plan with a Sword of Feast and Famine. Not much is cooler than that in a deck like this. So thank you once again to Adam Bush, to all other Patreon supporters, including the few of you who were getting down on a little tinkering on the Discord with Deadguy Ale. That was good times, and thank you so much for watching. Without any further ado, let's take this for a spin. 5-cling Deadguy Ale, and see how we do. Alright, my friends, here we are in round 1 with a hand that is better on the play, but we will still keep it. It's a very reasonable Cling into Bob into Lily curve with the ability to deploy our lands just about painlessly if we need to, or indeed to fetch and shock if we need to, grab basics if we need to, and we look like we are against Oops All spells. The opponent's mulled to 6 and then played a Hagra Brood Pit turn 1. So, think I'm supposed to Thoughtseize here. I haven't really gotten in a match against this deck since the last time you saw me play it on the channel, and I explained how I was not the most experienced. So, if we take Agadim's Awakening, in theory... Oh, I'm sorry, that's a land too. So, we can't really disrupt the mana reliably. I guess we just take away Undercity Informer here. Because they have 2 lands in hand and 2 Mana Rocks in hand. Batterskull into Pentad Prism. We've drawn Batterskull, a pretty bad draw. Alright, I'm going to go Shields down on the Cling for 1 turn and get a Bobby down. Liliana seems like she's of questionable utility from here. They have enough mana sources where they will be more than able to cast and also activate an Informer, for example. We still know their whole hand. Skyclave Apparition doesn't really help us much, but again, if we are assuming Liliana's past her best at the moment, we also assume we kind of have to take some high upside lines here to win, including increasing our clock. Maybe we will play the Apparition, just hit a Pentad Prism, which doesn't do much. Really, we're just kind of playing a Grey Ogre here, but we gotta clock him somehow. Deadguy, not exactly known for its quick clock. Beginning next turn, I will hold up Cling to Dust every single turn, unless something really unforeseen happens. Also worth noting that attacking the mana sources makes it so they can't cast Agadim's Awakening as easily, so I guess that didn't do nothing. 1 unknown in OP's hand. Oh, hardcast Vengevine, I see. Ooh, racing. Alright, well, we can certainly deal with that, but if we get unlucky with Bob Flips, which doesn't look like we will. Alright, I think we just edict that away with Lily. Hold up Cling. Dark Confidant doing a lot of work here for us. We're also holding up Path to Exile if they draw another Vengevine, although I guess now they could not hard cast it. Simian Spirit Guide. Alright, well. Not sure if we're supposed to path that or not. I think I'm going to untap because we're drawing 2. Oh, punish because it's just all lands, huh? A bit rough. Let's try to draw like a Fatal Push. Skyclave Apparition. I was going to say that'll do it. Again, it puts us shields down with the Cling. The problem is I don't really know if 1 Cling can even beat their whole deck. I kind of doubt it, but admittedly I don't know. I'm just going to continue again, getting bodies down. Putting the best clock together that I can. Apparition looking pretty cool here. If we draw a sword, we could have lethal, otherwise I don't think we will. Ooh, opponent drew another Agadim. And we draw Inquisition, Bloodchief's Thirst. Not getting lethal, but that is okay. Hopefully. Alright, so now we have, I guess, 2 Klings, or a Kling plus a draw, possibly including Path to Exile to beat their go-off turn if we can. No need for it. I guess we got pretty lucky there, huh? Alright. So, Kaya, Ashiok, Brutality, Path. I think we want to Revoke Existence. Solemnity is interesting at beating Pentad Prism, maybe some other stuff. Let me mute and quickly look up a list. I'm still a little out of my depth here. Alright, I think we're sideboarding like this. There is some temptation to play Fulminator Mage. Maybe I'll revisit that, especially seems better on the play if there is a game 3. There's also some temptation to do a couple of other things. Plague Engineer for Illusion on Narcomoeba is interesting, but in the most recent list I'm seeing only 2 copies of Narcomoeba. And I'm choosing to leave in a couple of Fatal Pushes because in my very limited experience against the deck, if they don't open on Leyline of Sanctity, they will be kind of dumping their hand out for fear of discard, or maybe even for Lilianas if we kept them in, which we didn't here. And maybe they'll play, for example, an Undercity Informer without the ability, without the 1 generic mana open up to activate it, right? And then we could kill it with a push. So, doing things like that. Maybe I'll go back to muting if the opponent's going to take a minute here. Don't want to make you sit through. Aha! See, every time we threaten to go mute the opponent, we'll get themselves at the keyboard again. Don't know if we're supposed to keep this one because it has no white, but on the draw we're likely enough to draw it. Inquisition is going to be good if they don't have Leyline, and we have Kling and Cremate. I think it's a keep. Also, we don't have a clock either, but seeing 2 pieces of graveyard interaction, 1 hand of hand interaction, and if we draw white, you know, we could take care of everything they're doing. You can see, like, Inquisitioning away a payoff creature or a land. They're going to power out a turn 2 Pentad Prism or something here. Indeed they are. Okay, we probably don't want to play Urborg until we have to. And we've drawn Plains, which is beautiful. Let's hope this Inquisition is impactful. It is. It takes Undercity Informer, but they have a Balustrade Spy as well. And they draw land. Rough. So rough. Okay. Well, I guess we die. Killed on turn 2 on a Mulda 5 through an Inquisition. You hate to see that. Guess we're going to look at their deck. They do have 4 Leyline of Sanctity, 3 Natural State. Good to know. Anything else that's a little unusual? Not to my knowledge. Only 2 Narcomoeba confirmed. Nexus of Fate. Is that typical? So here, if we had held up a Kling and Cremate, I guess cremating a Narcomoeba stops the Vengevines from coming back. No, I'm sorry. They're not casting. They're going to cast the Salvage Titan. I'm going to make them play it out so I can see a little bit better how it works. Where's this? Yeah, here's Salvage Titan. Oh, that's Graveyard to Hand. Alright, well, I mean, we certainly aren't beating this board state anyway, but I guess we can continue playing it out, huh? Did opponent scoops? Okay. I think they missed something there. Obviously they missed something there if they just concede the match. Hey, we'll take it. I don't feel like I'm any more comfortable at navigating against the finer points of the deck. But hey, better lucky than good, right? So opponent missing a trick there. I was expecting to see the Vengevines come back. The thing is, they still could very easily have beaten us. It's turn 2, and they've got a relatively good board state, and I'm sure they can still do something from the graveyard, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. A very lucky win here, game 1, but hey, oops all spells. A dangerous tightrope to walk, apparently. As I say, my friends, we will take it. Okay, we are here for round 2. Presumably in for more of a game than round 1 yielded. We've got a really interesting one land potential keep. We're against what looks to be M. Hayashi aggro. This hand's actually really good against M. Hayashi aggro. We just have to draw the second land, but we have 23 lands. We have a Cling to Cantrip. We have Inquisition and Push. We have a Painless Dual Land. We have double Stoneforge and Liliana. I'm keeping. I think this is a great one-land hand against the expected matchup. Especially if the opponent would have been so kind as to mulligan, but they don't. So, lead off on that Inquisition. They've got a nice balanced hand. 2 lands, 2 threats, Blood Moon. Yikes. Soulscar Mage and Swifty. That's really annoying because right now we have no reason to expect that we'll beat a Blood Moon. Yeah, I'm going to take it. We get punished for this if they draw aggressively from here and we don't quite curve out. We also get really punished if they just draw a second copy. But that's the judgment call. Alright, Natty Land off the top. No. No Natty Land. Alright, so I'm going to choose to miss my land drop for a turn rather than hope one is exactly on the top with Cling. Because what's probably going to happen is the opponent can be incentivized to shove at least a little bit here. Obviously, they're going to go at least Swifty into a dart, right? But maybe they do a little bit more. Alright, that's all they do. Okay, we've drawn a land. Nice. Stoneforge Mystic time. Because we have 2, I'm going to get Batterskull and price them into killing her. I know that they can, but it might not be optimal. They draw Firebolt, so it is optimal. Rough. But, yeah, we have another one we can get Sword of Fire and Ice, which is maybe more realistic to have it hit the field anyway. Still no other land, so... Yep, I'm just going to deploy another SFM. Give them the same incentive, you know, if they can't kill her, we'll still be flashing in a Batterskull, so... I think they have to flash back Lava Dart unless they just draw another Firebolt. Got it. Okay, opponent reckon us. Lava Dart, 1 unknown in hand. They've drawn a 3rd land. We've drawn Inquisition. I will begin there. Maybe they're holding up lightning bolts. They can fire off Bolt and Dart in response. Ooh, Spyro. Okay, that's a good take. I'll hit the Spyro, and then I will cling a Firebolt because it has flashback, trying to hit a third land here. We instead just draw another Cling. You know, if, like, we'd been able to resolve a Liliana by now, I'd actually be feeling okay. So there's two unknowns in, there's one unknown in OP's hand. Lava Dart, one unknown. Looks like they drew a burn spell. I think they're calculating whether or not they have lethal right now. They drew another dart. And that is lethal. Lava Dart's a strong card. They're using the wrong art, though. They're using the Modern Masters, or the Modern Horizons art. You know, we'll forgive you, OP. I hope you understand why I kept that one lander, knowing what deck we were against. It was a really strong one. Honestly, really strong. If we had the third land off the top on curve, naturally, or even the second land, naturally, I think we had every reason to believe we would have won. Also note that opponent did kind of have to draw a removal for Stoneforge Mystic that was 1-for-1 in order to, number one, keep curving out optimally, and number two, have lethal the turn that they just did, right? So I don't regret the keep. Certainly not to say you should keep one-landers cavalierly in any matchup, including that one. But in that case, I think it was reasonable. We didn't get there, though. So I love Brutality, Path to Exile. Kaya seems quite good. Auriok Champion seems incredible. I'm probably playing Damnation, and I'm maybe playing Plague Engineer, but that will depend on what comes out. But these 5 cards have to come in. And cards like Last Hope and Lingering Souls are okay defensively, but a little underwhelming on the whole. I'm going to cut all Dark Confidants, though, and one Thoughtseize, I think, is the free 5 outs. So let's play a Damnation over a Souls. Do we like... How do we like Plague Engineer versus like Lingering Souls and Lily the Last Hope? I think that's basically where our decision comes down to. Skyclave Apparition seems probably better than those cards, but I don't know by how much. You know, I think I'm actually going to leave this in. Like, if we're playing Damnation, I'd rather play Last Hope and Souls than more 2/2s. We already have enough 2/2s and 1/2s and 1/1s and everything else, right? So, yeah, I think I like this configuration a lot. And, I don't know, we've got Auriok Champion. That goes a long way. They're probably going to bring in Kozilek's Return, though, if they have it. Maybe they have a card like Blaststone or something. This is a nutty hand. I'm keeping it. Look at this hand. Look at it. If only Shambling Vent was like a basic Plains, I guess it'd be even better. There's a lot of temptation to just go Vent here, but I'm not gonna. We're gonna Thoughtseize. Shattering Spree, very good to know about. Light up the stage, Bone Crusher, Giant, Lightning Bolt. Bone Crusher beats Auriok Champion, so the stomp of Bone Crusher, that is. So that's going to be my take. It's a really strong hand from the opponent, though. And we're punished in a way because there's nothing to turn 1 push. And that was our whole plan of, hey, they give us something. Nice. Okay. And we draw our 3rd SFM. Got it. So opponent might go Bolts, light up main phase. They don't. Well, this looks like a pretty good hand against a mono red deck to me, but they do have tools to beat it. No light up that turn. That is really interesting to me. In any case, I'm going to get the Auriok Champion down, and I need white for that, and make them beat this card. The presence of Shattering Spree in their hand makes the draw of a third Stoneforge Mystic not that exciting. But I can play at least one, maybe force that out, or maybe draw a discard spell before we even do that. Alright, how many mountains did I see? Just 2, so no, there are 2 unknowns in the opponent's hand. I'm going to leave the Marsh Flats uncracked, I guess, to help play better around Blood Moon. In case we draw 1 basic, we can fetch the other, right? Yeah, I know there's maintenance coming. I think this is maintenance for the previous update they did. So why is there no always yes anymore to Auriok Champion? That happened with the update too. Maybe they're fixing that bug among many other bugs, right? Okay, so the card that really beats us here badly is Kozilek's Return. But they already have Shattering Spree. I think we have to play around one or the other. So what I'm planning to do is just get my life gain here off of Champion. Go get Fire and Ice and Batterskull, because I can't do anything about them in hand. And that gives us the option next turn of what to do. Oh my god, they drew it. You gotta be kidding. They got Kozilek's Return off the top. Oh no. That's such a disaster. They had Bone Crusher anyway. Man, they've just got the beating of us, don't they? In any case, that's a little rough, you have to say. Alright, let's go get another piece of equipment. Oh, man. And then they got Firebolt, too. Okay, their draws have just been perfect. They really have been. So, I'm tempted to Path here, but Path is just putting them closer to Abash. I'm still going to, though, because I don't want to give them that much of a leeway with their light up, and the Bone Crusher is going to kill us in a hurry anyway, if we just let it hit us, right? Oh, man, I can't believe they drew Kozilek's Return, and they're sitting on Shattering Spree. They found Bomat Courier and Lightning Bolt, and we have found a tap land, which is about as tilting as it gets. Oh, man. Alright, we're getting wrecked by the Abash deck, which is fine, I guess. We got a free win in round 1, and this deck's really cool. I don't mind losing to it, but I will note the nuttiness of their draws. And if we had held back a second Stoneforge Mystic, I don't think very much changes, if I'm honest. And now we're flooding. Are we... I think we are maybe supposed to play Batterskull and force them to use the Shattering Spree on that alone, and then try to draw a threat to equip Fire and Ice too. They know about our whole hand here. They've drawn Swifty. Yeah, opponent having some hesitation over whether or not to spree the Batterskull, I guess, but in the end they will, which is probably just the necessary play. The draw of Swifty makes that better. Again, I continue to say that their draws have been pretty crazy. Alright, give us another Auriok off the top. We get Skyclave Apparition. It's not bad. It's obviously going to die to Lightning Bolt, but I'll use it in the hopes that it clears the way for another threat. I actually think we're supposed to leave the Bomat Courier alone here because they have a lot of cards in hand anyway. If they have another Shattering Spree, there's just no way we come back, but yeah, basically all in on drawing another Auriok Champion. OP with a Flame Slash. Not that Auriok can block this stuff for free anyway, right? But but you get it. We have drawn land. Well, that lets us use our entire turn to fire up and equip Shambling Vent, which will force them to bolt the vent, which will give us another window to potentially draw a threat that can stick with the sword. So I guess that's our play, but it's a really bad play. I'm sorry, I forgot it was only 2 to equip, not 3. We didn't need to fetch right there, but we are. And indeed, the bolt is drawn out. Fair enough. Okay, so maybe now they're out of removal, and maybe if we draw a creature, we can stick the sword to it. We can go to town. They've drawn another Shattering Spree. Again, there's just nothing they don't have. Okay, they draw Spyro. Again, there's nothing they don't have. So now we have to draw Damnation, and even then we're still going to lose to the Yabash. But Damnation is now the only draw that lets us keep playing. Collective Brutality could have been good at, like, any point in the first 5 turns. Could have been really good. As it is, I will simply concede the opponent has us soundly beaten. So, good games, well played to the OP. Only thing I could have done differently there is not play out another Stoneforge Mystic into the possible K return. But I didn't feel I was beating a K return anyway. And as you see, with them having no shortage of removal, I don't think the second Stoneforge Mystic coming down later changes a single thing. So, yeah, they just got us. They have the tools to beat us. We have the tools to beat them, but not when the gas keeps coming like that. And not when they have so many blowouts, right? So, well, oh well, fun games anyway, and we are 1-1 going into round 3. Winning the die roll here. Yeah, this client is so messed up now. I hope this update fixes it. I even did a full uninstall and reinstall. It's not lagging like it was before, but still. We're against a Lurrus deck. We assume Rakdos, and we will keep a totally fine hand. It's not perfect. Draw of a sword is really never ideal in the opener. And Dark Confidant is going to die to most things, but possibly we could clear the way for it. That'd be huge if we could. And we are not against Rakdos. We are against, I guess, the Colossus Hammer deck. Oh yeah, I do see Colossus Hammer. I was looking first at Sigarda's Aid. So whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. That's the hammer itself. So I think we're supposed to take away Aid here. And then plan to stick the Bob, draw a third land with 3 top decks, and Edict the Pure Still Paladin, and then force them to beat us from there. They do have Luris. We have drawn Cling to Dust, which as far as I know is not relevant beyond cantripping. I think fetching and shocking here is correct because we need double black for Lily. And we also need double white for Skyclave Apparition in this matchup. Both seem quite good. Here comes the Pure Steel. They have drawn a 0-drop artifact, which was what I was afraid of. So they're getting value before we can hopefully Edict. But we need to draw an untapped third land. Come on, Bobby. We do it. Good job, Bob. All right, so we're far, far, far from out of the woods, but this is certainly a big part of what we needed to do to remain competitive. Inkmoth Nexus, interesting. That's a really easy kill with Colossus Hammer, I guess. Stoneforge Mystic. Yep, okay. I haven't seen this deck in a while, but these cards make sense. Cranial Plating. And then just playing out a hammer. Very intriguing. We've drawn Thoughtseize and Path to Exile. This could be some pretty decent ones. I think we're supposed to pitch Lingering Souls here. Pretty easy. We get Plains out of their hand. They still have a Silent Clearing. Maybe technically could have Thoughtseize first before the Lily +1, but we still have to Thoughtseize here, right? Right. Steel Shaper's Gift and a second Cranial Plating. So we're going to take the gift away. How obligated are we to hold up Path to Exile here? Like, if they top deck Sigarda's Aid, I mean, the Colossus Hammer is already on the field. They'd get the Cranial Plating. It's kind of whatever. I'm going to attack, even though I could really see them taking the trade. We have to be the beatdown here. They're the combo deck, right? Yeah, they take the trade. That's not unexpected, right? But I think it's okay under the circumstances. Opponent's drawn a Memnite. I'm sorry, I think I said another Cranial Plating earlier. That's not accurate. I was conflating the one in their hand with the one that they tutored with Stoneforge Mystic, which is the same one. An opponent just loading up the Memnite, and it will be Edicted away, but I guess they're thinking it's good to price us into that. But we were pretty happy to anyway with this hand, right? So, I would like to be more proactive. I think I want to hold up Path from here on out. Maybe that's playing overly cautiously, but I think that's what I'm going to do. But what I can do that's proactive is cast a Cling to Dust, try to draw another land. Draw Thoughtseize, which is bad, but at least it is out of the way. Alright, we're the very slow beatdown now. But keeping the board clear by making that trade with Bob is important. I think Bob was still really good there. Opponent putting Luris into hand. Okay, now Thoughtseize is good again. Love to see that. We've drawn another land. Ooh, Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, I think we do go Shields down with Path to get that SFM out of their hand. With another Liliana. And once again, we get to pitch souls to her +1, which is just lovely. Alright, so far so good. OP playing totally off the top. We've got a Lily on 4. We've got Path in hand. And now that we have a 4th land, we could even play a Sword of Feast and Famine and still hold up Path. Making our clock a little quicker over a couple turns. OP with a Pure Steel Paladin. But then they're going to animate Yawgmoth Nexus. And that's just lethal. Okay. So they top decked, I think, the only thing that lets them do that. I could be wrong. But I think Sigarda's Aid would not have done it. Because that's whenever an equipment enters the battlefield. So I think that was literally the only thing that let them hook up the Colossus Hammer, which is kind of insane. And that's kind of why I was being cautious with the Path earlier. I think that was a great time, honestly, to go Shields down with it, but we got max punished for it. You hate to see that. That really sucks. Feels like that one got stolen from us. But what are you going to do? Revoke Existence, Path to Exile seem okay. Kaya can tag some things like a Colossus Hammer. We should probably play her. I guess Plague Engineer naming Blinkmoth could be good. I don't think this is a Damnation matchup. Collective Brutality seems fine. And then you could maybe play Fulminator Mage and even Ashiok as well to shut off those tutor effects. Seems unlikely we're supposed to bring in all these cards, though. I think I'm cutting Batterskull. We're looking for sword action off of the SFMs. I think the Klings and Cremates are mostly just cantripping filler. So probably free to shave at least on those. Lingering Soul seems okay here. Last Hope probably not accomplishing much. Gideon a little slow. Alright, Path to Exile, Revoke Existence, Plague Engineer, Collective Brutality probably our most important cards. If we're bringing in Plague Engineer, maybe we can cut a Souls. I'm also thinking Gideon might just be too slow to justify. So do we like a Kaya or do we like maybe a single Ashiok? We don't have room for Fulminator Mage. I think Kaya has a lot of targets. I kind of want one of both. Let's play without Souls at all. Souls was great last game with synergy with Liliana. Gave us a board presence. They were efficient, but hopefully we're getting more efficient post-side. I am not that familiar with how the opponents deck the ins and outs, but I think we played that optimally. If I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments. I think we got really unlucky there. This is a quite underwhelming opening hand. It has a couple of sideboard cards that we like, but it's a 5-lander. I think most 6s are better. I'm going to send it back. Now we get a 1-land 6. Okay. This is a pretty good 1-land 6, but it's still a 1-land 6. And it has all the 3-drops in it. I think we have to go to 5. Sure. Bottom Urborg. And it's either bottom Apparition or Field of Ruin. Both cards are good here. Having mulled to 5, I'm going to play to get lucky and draw the 3rd land naturally. But we at least have Inquisition into Stoneforge Mystic. That would have been a really nice 7, but seems like we're getting relatively unlucky after having been given a free win in game 1. Match 1, rather. So opponent has double SFM. That alone is a disaster when we have mulled to 5. They have Colossus Hammer, Cranial Plating, Mishra's Bauble. They already have all the tutor targets, right? Just going to take an SFM, I guess. Again, if we had a 7 to compete with their 8, because remember they have Lurrus too, yeah, that would be something. And, the Lurrus in some way won them that game, because it kind of forced us to go Thoughtseize Liliana last game, and therefore go Shields Down with a Path. So the free 8th card, not to be underestimated ever, right? We've drawn the 3rd land, which is pretty good. Okay, Fire and Ice or Feast and Famine. I'm not admittedly entirely sure. I think there are real upsides to both. One upside to Fire and Ice is that we're able to kill their Stoneforge Mystic over, on turn 4 maybe. I think I'm going to take that. I think I want to draw cards because I mulliganed. I also want to be aggressive at controlling their board, and also aggressing against their life total is good because, as far as we knew, they were operating off double silent clearing, but of course, they have drawn planes. So, even that little thing starts to turn against us. Opponent will go just get Paradise Mantle, but not play it. Alright, we've drawn Dark Confidant. Seems pretty good. I don't think we're punished for leaving the Stoneforge around much. I think we certainly play either Bob or Apparition here. Let's go for the high upside of Bob. Trying to draw that 4th land next turn so we can flash in and equip. We're also representing removal this way. Welding Jar. Okay. I mean, Revoke Existence makes that pretty redundant. But opponent has found Pure Steel Paladin. Again, there's just nothing they are not top decking after already having good natural progressions. So we are just bluffing removal and hoping that scares them off. Okay, well, we've just got a chump block here. I'm going to chump with Stoneforge Mystic because our new plan is to cast Apparition and get rid of Colossus Hammer, I guess. Yep, re-equipping makes sense. Hard to see us coming back from this. But we are not dead yet. But even Cranial Plating Beatdown is going to be pretty rough. We'd love to flip a land with Bob and just draw a kill spell. We haven't been able to, draw kill spells for their Pure Steel Paladins ever, and our deck is full of them. So if we flip a land with Bob that's untapped, we draw a Fatal Push for our draw step. Plague Engineer, Inquisition of Kozilek. It's not it. Alright, I guess it's Apparition time. And I think we have to get rid of Colossus Hammer and accept that Pure Steel Paladin's wrecking us for another turn. This is the card that's harder to answer overall, too, We're going to chump block with Apparition instead of Bob, so might as well ship in here. I guess. Sure, taking high upside lines. Again. And yeah, there's no way they take the trade. Let's keep up with their hand. Steel Shaper's Gift. Ah, oh, man, why are the opponents just not drawing us? These rounds 2 and 3 are both against decks I don't mind, but their progressions have been pretty unbeatable. For Deadguy, anyway. We're having, like, medium to good progressions, and they're having just nut draws. Another Stoneforge Mystic, too. My goodness. This deck is, like, harder to disrupt these days, isn't it? Anyway. They've got all the Colossus Hammers. The only reason that we're not completely dead. Ornithopter. Oh my god. This is the heir to Affinity, but it's a lot more broken. Alright. Hey, maybe we should have brought in Damnation. I don't know. We don't have outs, though. I don't think. Re-equip, re-equip. Another Plague Engineer? Well, if the things weren't toughness 12, and if we had 6 mana, maybe that'd be good. Alright, we're absolutely destroyed. Well, Plague Engineer actually has Death Touch. There's a Cranial Plating still in hand as well. Alright, I guess we're not totally dead because we can... Oh yeah, we're just dead to Ornithopter. And, no, it loses flying. Okay, sure. And I guess we'll take a clean kill on an illusion token here. So we're having to chump with Bob, trade with Plague Man. We have another Plague Man to trade. And after all of it, they're still going to have more threats than we will. And they still have Lurrus to put in hand. So again, I cannot possibly imagine us getting there. They have a redraw with Bauble that they're just hanging on to as well. They have another Steel Shaper's Gift. Are you kidding me? Alright. Okay, I guess they get to Welding Jar, regenerate, sure. Again, I think our outs are pretty much not there. But we'll take another couple draws off of this Bobby boy. We got Path to Exile and another Plague Man. Why not keep playing it out, right? I'll name Blinkmoth here because we're not killing anything outright anyway. We don't have a third Plague Engineer in, so... This is a little agonizing. I guess it's probably better to path the Ornithopter to beat future Welding Jars, right? Another pure steel paladin. Yup, seems good. Seems so good. Seems so good, I'm just gonna likely scoop here. And a Memnite, too. And then Lurrus into hand to top it all off. Alright. Hover the concede game button. We draw 2 lands. Yeah, nothing we got. Well, draw off Silent Clearing, I guess, but... pretty rough, my friends, you have to say. Okay, yep, GG's well played. Nothing we can do about those nut draws. Another relatively fun match, but not one we won. Well, my friends, who knew our free win in round 1 would come at such a cost? It's round 4, we're 1-2. We are hoping to turn our fortunes around and still cash the league, but it's an uphill battle from here. And we haven't had much chance in our losses. This is a great opening hand, though. An absolutely fantastic keep. And we're against another Lurrus deck. Hopefully it's not Steel Shaper's Gift. Pure Steel Paladin nonsense again. Again, you know, that deck I'm sure is fine. It's not especially egregious or anything. It's just the opponent's draws were a bit insane, wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you agree? In any case, usually when we see Lurrus, we still expect Rakdos. And once again, we're wrong. This is Mill playing Lurrus. Hedron Crab, Mesmeric Orb, and Snapcaster Mage. Well, Snapcaster Mage does nothing, and even if it does something in the future, we can maybe beat it with Kling and Cremate. So it's what do we think is the bigger Mill threat over the long game, Crab or Orb? I would say with their hand and all those fetch lands, it's probably Crab, but we can draw removal for Crab. We might not have outs to Orb in main deck. Nevertheless, I'm going to take Crab. We want to slow them down, make them inefficient, and we might choose to Thoughtseize the Orb next turn. I was kind of like tunnel visioning on Stoneforge Mystic, getting the clock down ASAP. They draw a Ruin Crab. Oh no, that really sucks. That really sucks. Alright, let's get rewarded with a Fatal Push off the top, or a Bloodchief's Thirst. Then we'll Thoughtseize and push, and everything will be well. Bloodstained Mire. Dang. Okay. I'm going to fetch now, so the top deck of an Archive Trap doesn't hurt us next turn if they do. And then I guess we are probably supposed to Cremate main phase, because they're not snapping next turn anyway. Yeah, let's begin with a Cremate. And then if we draw a push, we can consider pushing. We don't, so we'll simply Thoughtseize away the Orb and hope that we can outrace this Crab. We've drawn Gideon, which is pretty bad here. You know, if we didn't have a threat, maybe we'd be okay with it, but not really what we wanted to see. So opponent will mill us a bunch, down goes. Some good stuff. We've drawn Bob. Yeah, it's alright. I'm going to once again fetch now. Actually, don't really know how alright Bob is now that I'm really thinking about it. I'm going to go Stoneforge. Opponent ripped an Archive Trap, really? Oh my goodness. Guys, what is this league? Opponents just top decking exactly like they drew it up. Fetching there is definitely correct. We just got really punished for it, and there's only one equipment left to fetch after their Archive Trap resolves, so quite the disaster. Alright. That said, opponent, you know, still does have some bricks in the deck, but really not many with this unanswered Crab. We've lost one Fatal Push. There's still another push. We've just, to that mill, lost the final push and the final Bloodchief's Thirst. Okay. So now, I don't know what we want to draw Liliana and have them have only lands forever, I guess. So sometimes it might make sense to cling your own graveyard to keep it smaller to make Visions of Beyond worse. In this case, we're already well beyond that point, so I guess I'm just going to cling away their Archive Trap. Not that they'll ever snap it back, but... Alright, there's a Lily. So now we have the... another fetch land, oh god, can you imagine? Let's play the Lily, Edict the Crab, attack for 1. So now our only real hope is that they just brick forever. See if they take this trade with Snap. They don't. Okay. Might flash it into pressure. No. Alright, I'm going to go for an upkeep fetch. Hope they haven't yet again top-decked that Archive Trap. Because if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. Or I should say it becomes riskier and riskier to do it. Alright, so if they're flooded, then they'll go on the Lurrus plan. They literally top-decked Archive Trap. Alright, this is a league that we're just, like, meant to apparently 1-4. Guys, what are the odds? What are the odds? Really? Oh my god. I'm trying to keep, like, the good disposition that I currently have, but this is a little bit tough, you have to say. Shouldn't really be possible to be punished that hard. They had exactly 1 turn to draw an Archive Trap the first time, or maybe 2, I think 1. They definitely had exactly 1 turn for the Archive Trap the second time. Okay, anyway. Let's take up, I guess, Pitch Bob. I don't know if any of this matters. Drawing the cards with Sword of Fire and Ice seems a little bad, but... maybe we take the highest upside line possible. OP will be able to buy back a crab with Lurrus, so I guess we probably don't really have any outs. And you can't choose not to draw, right? Correct. It's not a May. They just gained like 50 life or something crazy like that. Not 50, 30. Seems good. And we can't not draw cards, so I think we just have no way to win here. So we just get a little more info, maybe. It's just Lurrus. Alright, I can concede to this. We cannot kill them in 2 swings. And we'll kill ourselves before then. Very exciting. Unbelievable that, again, exactly Archive Trap. Really? Twice off the top? Really? And we had to draw fetch lands instead of any other land? Really? So anyway, we are getting completely wrecked. We don't have much to do against Mill. Collective Brutality is very good because it kills the little brother crab and also takes away a lot of important spells out of their hand. I think playing an Ashiok is pretty okay. Otherwise, we don't have that much to do. Maybe Kaya to kill the crabs. Sure. I think I like Kaya better than Path to Exile, right? There is a world in which we play Fulminator Mage just to try to get a bit of a free win with Mana Screw. I don't think Revoke Existence is worth doing. It only hits Mesmeric Orb, as far as I know. So far, guys, I hate to say it, I've been pretty unimpressed with Deadguy. So many things feel so much worse. Like here, if we're on BG, we just have like Abrupt Decays, and they kill the crab, and they kill the orb, right? And on green-black, there's no way we lose a whole wide board to a Kozilek's return, just for a couple examples. But anyway, this is what we're playing, and we'll try to close out the league strong with it. I think we're supposed to leave in all 4 push effects. Gideon is once again pretty slow. Do we even want this Ashiok? Yeah. I think we, instead of Fulminators, we'll just play an Ashiok, maybe lock some fetch lands up. Lily the Last Hope. A lot of our cards are just aggressively medium. I'm going to keep the souls in for the free value off of Mill, so I guess that means we're cutting Gideon, even though he can turn the corner quickly. Let's cut Gideon and cut Batterskull. We're just going to play a lean, mean curve with nothing over 3. And we need a little help. We need the variance to turn back in our favor. This has been ridiculous. But this is quite a nice keep. We will keep it. And under some circumstances, I might say it's correct to fetch turn 1, just like we would in a vacuum, to give them as few chances as possible to have an archive trap in hand. But we are gonna be searching with Stoneforge Mystic anyway at some point, right? So let's just Inquisition off of Courtyard to get information and maybe allow us to play around it with Brutality. Glimpse the Unthinkable, Maddening Cacophony. That's a mill 8. Got it. So that's the worst card in their hand. I think we're gonna take Orb, and then we can Brutality, kill the crab, take the Glimpse. If we want. They also need to draw a second land to make everything else besides crab castable. So if we draw a 3rd land, maybe we Brutality pitching this, or draw a 4th land, we could Brutality pitching a fetch land. That'd be really spicy. Last Hope. Alright. Are we down to picture? I think the answer is probably yes. So why don't we once again hope they haven't top-decked exactly Archive Trapped? Kill your crab, look at your hand. Pitch our Planeswalker. They have drawn another crab, which really rewards our sequencing, because now we get to just push that next turn and play our Stoneforge Mystic. You'll love to see that. Have they drawn a second land? They sure have, so they're just doing a little of what they need to do, but thankfully it's only a Field of Ruin. Alright, should we get this fetch out of the way, even though that makes the Courtyard worse? Yeah, because I just don't want to lose to Archive Trap. So let's do all of our fetching right now. I'm going to get Fire and Ice here for the quick clock, I guess. And they'll just scoop to that. Nice. Okay. They had to mull the 5. We were on the play with quite a decent hand. So take that with a grain of salt, but hey, that's what we needed. And we didn't even do anything that unusual. We just disrupted like our deck is supposed to do. And stuck a Stoneforge Mystic. That's the Deadguy dream. Stoneforge Mystic snowballing the game single-handedly after a lot of 1-for-1 trading. We didn't see much out of their deck that we didn't know about besides that Mill 8 spell, which I think is kind of bad just between you and me. And with that in mind, I think I like our sideboarding as is. Yeah. Run it back. Hope for another mull to 5 from the opponent and another similar opening hand from us. Well, this is our mono-black mid-range hand. I think we're supposed to keep this. There's no threat, and that's really awkward. But turn 1 removal's awesome. Turn 2 brutality is awesome. And then we have double clings to, like, see all the cards and even to control the graveyards a bit, which does matter. I will keep. Not a fetch land to be seen, right? Which is both good and bad, right? I mean, this is just so indicative of the league, though, isn't it? Open on all 3 of our basic swamps. And then draw a sword. Big yikes. Big yikes. Opponent doing nothing? They kept a 1-lander with... Oh my goodness. Alright. We've drawn Inquisition. Sure, I think using that's better than Brutality in the blind. And we'll be able to cling something for efficiency. Okay, they have Archive Trap, Surgical Extraction, Double Push, Double Snap, Mesmeric Orb. Alright, so we definitely don't care about Extraction yet, possibly ever. The only good target for it would be Cling. We don't care about the snaps yet. I'm just going to take Mesmeric Orb. That is a disastrous hand from the opponent. I'm not trying to be rude. That's just like a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily come together. But they draw the second land, so now they're operational. And you could see them doing like a surgical snap, surgical aggressive line here. Which makes me just a little leery about casting a Cling, but I think clinging is still fine. Why don't we Cling their orb? That way if they want to blow out our Cling with a surgical, they get all the orbs out of their deck. Or no, they wouldn't have to take them all out, but let's still make that play. Oh, they were 6th. Got it. And now if they try to surgical or Cling, we could Cling in response. We draw Dark Confidant. And we draw a white land, which is really nice as well. Certainly playing the white land. I'm going to cast a Brutality. Most likely taking a Fatal Push. But they're going to Surgical Inquisitions in response. And then they could also... that is good for us. Then they could, like, snap Surgical, but we could compete over that in a couple different ways, so I'm just going to let this happen. They get info this way, but whatever. I mean, us losing Inquisitions isn't great, because those are some of our better draws against that Fatal Push hand, but at this point, we just want to draw Liliana. That'd be even better, right? So do we compete over this push, or do we take Archive Trap now? I think we're still going to take a push. We kind of want to make them make the first move with this stuff, right? Maybe another Thoughtseize could do that. A Liliana could really do that. Opponent's hand going nowhere at the moment, but they have a lot of powerful cards in there, that's for sure. We could regret leaving Archive Trap in a couple different ways. Opponent's going to tap out for a Glimpse the Unthinkable. Alright. We have a Lingering Souls now to buy back. And I still don't care, really, about their Surgical so much, so I'm going to Cling this Fatal Push. Come on, draw Lily of the Veil. We draw Silent Clearing, another Cling. Well, the other Cling is okay. The other Cling is definitely okay. But I gotta like protect the Bob, right? So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna flash back a Souls. Just gonna hold up a Cling. And the reason I'm not playing Silent Clearing here is because next turn we want 5 lands, so next turn we can play and equip a sword and then force them to push a token, which is good value for us. It's going to clear the way for Bob eventually. You get it. All right. Still just one unknown in the opponent's hand. Their hand's really clunky. They're going to glimpse again. I see. Well, we get to go to town with a Sword of Feast and Famine, which is going to be really nice. So why don't we just Cling to keep curving out? I think at this point maybe Clinging Surgical is the best bet, even though I don't know exactly how that would play out. They're just not having the lands to ever snap back those glimpses, right? And like drawing a card off of the Cling is almost risky, but hopefully the one card won't make the difference. We draw another SFM. It can be really complicated to play against Mill with a deck like this, figuring out what is and is not still in your own deck, for example. Let's not ever use this fetch land. Note that if I use it in the future, I at least knew at one point I shouldn't have used it. Alright, Sword of Feast and Famine time. Gonna do a ton of work on the opponent's hand and board. And then we get to untap 5 lands, which is amazing. And then probably... Okay, there's no other Lingering Souls to play. That's a little rough. Out of the graveyard. I guess we only have 2 in the deck. Would still be really nice to have one, though, right? OP pitching a snap. So we have the Clings. You know, I think we're actually just supposed to play Bob and Stoneforge and not search with Stoneforge. We have things to get, but again, that archive trap we cannot afford to turn on. The other line we could take is to crack Silent Clearing. Again, I'm kind of leery of drawing cards in general, but, you know, maybe that's better than playing a Squire. We could draw Liliana, Lingering Souls, some good cards like that. Sure. Again, hopefully one card here and there doesn't make a difference. Could also draw Sword of Fire and Ice, which would be intriguing. Apologies for being behind on the clock here to the viewer and to the opponent. We have had a lot of decisions to talk through here. Thing about the opponent's keep, like I said, it was a bit of a disaster in terms of how it all fit together and the clunk potential, which is being very much realized. But the thing about it, it's got a lot of really powerful cards in it. And they've top-decked a couple other really powerful cards in those 2 glimpses. So the raw power is there. And again, with Deadguy, our clock is just so anemic, right? We draw another fetch land, which is probably the worst draw we got. But we play a Bob. Bob can get pushed, but if that's the worst they can do. Alright, they're fetching, but as far as I know, their hand is still snap, trap, push. So I don't know why they would be fetching. I guess so they could flash in the snap as a blocker? I don't know. I don't understand that. I hope I didn't mistrack the hand. But there's so much going on here. And we are drawing literal only fetch lands off the top. Bruh moment. Alright. Okay, before blocks, I'm going to use my mana to cling away their Fatal Push. Or should we be clinging a Glimpse the Unthinkable? I guess because they have two, we'll just cling the push. We've drawn Cremate, okay. Again, drawing all these cards is sketchy. It's real sketchy. Does Archive Trap finally go down? It does. So their hand is Snapcaster Mage, and we can beat that with a Cremate. Let's go. All right. So, what do we do here? I guess we have to take even more time here to figure out what is fetchable that's left in the deck. How many planes are we seeing? None, so I guess we have a planes to fetch. How many Godless Shrines are we seeing in Exile and in the graveyard? That is 1. So, oh, no. We still can't fetch because Snap Archive Trap is a thing. Or, wait, yes we can, and maybe we should, to draw Snap Archive Trap out and then just beat it with Cremate. Yeah, that's the line. I think. I hope. I really hope. And we have a Sword of Fire and Ice to fetch. And then maybe they'll do this main phase and we'll get to even Bloodchief's Thirst the Snap. Which would be epic. So I get that, but I don't play it yet because we gotta hold up Cremate. And they don't go for it. They're going to thirst the Stoneforge. Yep. And then concede the match. All right. Sequencing seemed a little weird from the opponent at the end there, but I guess maybe part of the thinking was they were giving us credit that we knew about their line of Snap Trap, and therefore they decided let's untap and let's not walk into that and let's see what we can put together. Maybe they could find some way to beat our stuff. I don't really know. In any case, their draw of Bloodchief's Thirst, not sufficient. Sword of Feast and Famine, equipped to a Spirit token, getting us over the line. That was a real Deadguy ale win if I've ever seen one. So we benefited from opponent's mull in Game 2 and from their probably questionable keep in Game 3. But as always, we have to acknowledge the pressure that any black-based mid-range deck exerts on an opponent. They sometimes keep clunky hands, right? Because they are afraid of losing to attrition on the back of their own card disadvantage from a mulligan. So, whereas other decks can get free wins based on them doing something really unusual that opponents' cards don't line up against, or them just having really linear early kills, the way that black-based mid-range decks can kind of engineer things that are close to a free win is because the opponents are pressured into sketchy keeps sometimes that don't always work out. You still really have to earn the win, though, in the course of a long game, especially when you have a slow clock, and that's what we did here. But hey, This was a fun, satisfying win, honestly. Even though we're only 2-2, and even though the opponent's draws have been kind of nutty in places, this has been a really fun league for me. Adam, hope you're having fun, my friend. Let's try to cash in round 5. Alright, opponent will mulligan. I guess we keep. It's a bit of a strange hand. This is not a hand you'll see in Modern very often, maybe nowhere, except here on Grimflayer MTG's YouTube channel. If Cremate's live, the hand's going to be amazing. If Cremate is underwhelming, we'll hope that Bob can run away with the game. So we're against an MDFC combo deck, maybe Belcher, and we've drawn double Field of Ruin. So if we can simply fade an early kill, we can start Stone Raining them T3 into T4 Stone Rain after a turn 2 Bob. Could definitely be good. But these combo decks kill you pretty quick. And if we were on the play, I'd be actually pretty confident here. So opponent hasn't put anything into the yard. We will therefore cremate our own Windswept Heath, which again is a line that you'll probably only ever hear spoken on this channel. Skyclave Apparition. Okay, well if they just cast a Charbelcher next turn, which I assume this is, maybe we can Apparition that. But hopefully they just stumble and do nothing for one turn, and then it's Field of Ruin time. Odds of that are, I think, relatively low. But you never know. You know what would... Ooh. Spikefield Hazard cast as the removal spell. That's brutal. You know what else would be really rough is Blood Moon. I didn't think probably enough about Blood Moon. We could have at least gotten one basic off of Marsh Flats. Please don't Blood Moon us. I guess it's either Blood Moon or a kill, most likely here. Blood Moon would almost be worse, though, right? Again, if they do just cast a Belcher here, we can beat that. Hopefully this is just them fizzling. How nice would that be? No land drop and you fizzle. Maybe they have... Okay, recross the paths. Okay, this is acceptable, because we will see their whole deck. Even though I still don't really know what I'm doing, we'll see their whole deck. And then we get to shuffle their deck with Field. And Stone Rain them, which is just ridiculously good. So they have 2 Blood Moons. I think only Tooth. Certainly bottom that Fatal Push. Alright, Field of Ruin about to be the MVP. Number 1, it Stone Rains them. Number 2, it shuffles away their recross the paths. Number 3, it fixes our mana for Blood Moon by getting a swamp. And number 4, we can cast Modern Staple Cremate off of that swamp. Can't even keep a straight face while saying it. And opponent getting Stone Rained out of the game, as it should be. I don't know if there's anything that we strictly have to cremate in the graveyard. I don't think that matters. I could look at their deck. I won't put you through that. Let's just hit the least redundant thing. And then we're just going to go... Wow, we draw Bob too. We'll Field of Ruin once again into a threat. Stoneforge or Bob. Don't know which is better. And the opponent will not even make us use it. They will, or decide between them. They will simply scoop. Understandably so. Wow. Do we put Field of Ruin on the cover after this? I don't know. It's pretty tempting. That was just incredible. Incredible. Anyway, good times. So I assume we're against Belcher. Once again, this is out of my league a little bit. So I'm going to mute and look at a list and try to sideboard as best as I can, my friends. Be right back. Alright, my friends, so I think, number 1, we can expect them to sideboard a Mountain Inn, which I'm seeing in the most recent list, and also happened to me before on the channel. I think we want Revoke Existence, Brutality, triple Fulminator, and I think we also want all the removal spells out. I'm also probably comfortable swapping Last Hope out for Ashiok. We could also, like, as Kaya, potentially anything, including just a win condition. Probably not. I'd probably just rather try to beat down with slow things like Lingering Souls rather than play a Kaya. Alright. Does this hand do it? Brutality into Fulminator. I don't know. I don't know if this is good enough. Brutality can take anything away, though, even lands, which is pretty sweet. So we could basically have turn 2 Stone Rain, if they only have a 2-lander, turn 3 Stone Rain. And then I don't know where we're going from there. On the draw, again, is that good enough? I don't know. They keep 7, they could have Leyline. So mulling aggressively toward discard, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. I'll try it. But no turn 1 play is pretty beat. Let's draw Inquisition or Thoughtseize. We do! Oh, let's go! Alright. Really lucky. But this could be the key to making our Disruption amazing. Opponent has their basic mountain in hand. Another really lucky thing for us. Note that Wilt is good against us in a couple different ways. And note that they also have Blood Moon in hand. But we can beat that pretty... or we can just play around that pretty well. So why don't we take away... I think we're supposed to go on the land destruction plan fully, so let's just take Shatterskull Smashing, and then we can Brutality something next turn, and then we can Fulminator the following turn. Yep, following the cues of my own hand more than theirs. I expect them to go Ritual Blood Moon here, which again we can beat. So note that we don't want to play our planes yet, because, again, we want a Fulminator next turn. We have 5 lands. You could justify draining them for 2, actually. Especially because did we side Batterskull out? No, we didn't. Alright, maybe we don't drain for 2 then. Or maybe... no, we still do. We still do. This is a very minor decision I'm tanking over, but I'm going to because it's cool. Oh, they've drawn Irencrag Feet. Probably just have to take that, right? Sure. This might just be a Monomorphose to cantrip. Then they'll cycle the Wilt. Looking to fade a land drop, but we don't. We are just flooding ourselves, which is pretty rough. But we just, again, this is the cues of our hand. Skyclave Apparition. Ooh. Unfortunately uncastable. Otherwise would be... oh, no. Ooh, bad play. I didn't mean to skip through the turn. I meant to play a Sword of Fire and Ice. Let's just say we were playing around a Wilt, right? Okay, Cling to Dust. So we know that they have at least some ability to buy stuff back with, like, Bala Ged Recovery. Probably not going to happen under the Blood Moon, but still, I guess let's take Wilt away with our Cling. Draw a card. Stoneforge Mystic. That's a good one. Batterskull is still in the deck, but I'm going to get Feast and Famine here, I think. So I do wish we had the sword on the field, because then we could have just equipped it. So that was definitely my bad. The Fire and Ice, the first one, that is. Definitely my bad. And I think Feast and Famine is better than Fire and Ice in this spot. But if all goes well, we'll get to do both, right? And that's just another reason playing it first makes sense. Leyline of Sanctity out of the hand. Okay. I accept. Okay, we're suiting up Stoneblade. Stoneforge Mystic is dual-wielding, just like in the art. You love to see that. Let's hope it's good enough, my friends. It's super cool either way. Ooh, Lily of the Veil, not quite castable. You know, I think we had the ability to fetch turn 1. I probably should have, rather than playing basic Swamp. Whichever one we got, we would be rewarded for that, right? We draw Dark Confidant, which is pretty good, just because it gives us lethal on field. If nothing else. Opponent's found something to do. Monomorphose. Simian Guide. Uh-oh. Urine Crag Feet. Oh, no. Oh, no. And they already have their mountain. So, Reforge the Soul. Not just Belcher and Death. Okay. So they would need to draw, like, more rituals. Another ritual, another feat, maybe? Whatever they needed, they don't have it. Let's go! What a freaking satisfying win. That was cool. We're stone raining the MDFC combo decks out of existence. A bit of a sketchy keep, admittedly, game 2. And that was rewarded because the Brutality lined up, the Fulminator lined up, and then we drew Stoneforge Mystic, basically. Ended up, despite a couple misplays from myself. So, minor misplays, but ones that ended up being relatively consequential. There were a lot of, whoops, I somehow lost my deck. Hold on, we'll resume this in a moment. Alright guys, so a very fun cached league, and probably the quickest league I have ever played with Deadguy, because games can go really, really long. Because number 1, it's black-based mid-range. Number 2, we're really slow as far as the clock goes. And the opponents kind of always feel they have a chance, I think, against Deadguy, whereas, like, if you're already on the back foot and, like, green-black X throws down a couple Tarmogoyfs, you'll see people scoop to that a lot more quickly. And if they don't, again, they'll end the game more quickly. But anyway, this was fun, this was satisfying, and it was a quick league. I like quicker leagues these days, I really do. I like intense decision-making and meaningful interaction, but I also don't like matches to go for 45 minutes. That's just my preference these days. It's a consequence of having very little free time. In any case, back to what I was saying before, I made a couple misplays that I think maybe in a majority of matches would not have mattered, or in a majority of progressions would not have mattered in round 5, game 2, but they both actually came to matter significantly. Number 1, as I mentioned, I should have fetched turn 1. Either basic, whatever one I was feeling more hyped about, it probably would have been Swamp, because that would also let us play all our basics and still cast Fulminator on curve, just in case of Blood Moon. I overlooked that. We did get a Skyclave Apparition mooned out, which did slow our clock down, and that did matter. Now, I don't know if the moon was affecting them at all. So that would have been a point of tension, but still we should have had the ability to make that choice. And number 2, I think on the turn I drew the apparition, I said, oh, well, we can't cast that, and accidentally skip past my turn where I should have hard cast the Sword of Fire and Ice. The following turn, we were punished for that because we top-decked a castable SFM, but we only found that off of the Cling to Dust, actually. We top-decked the Cling into the SFM, and then therefore, even with the 5th land drop, could not put the Sword of Fire and Ice down. Or maybe if we did put it down, we couldn't equip it. Don't remember quite how that went. So we missed a sword trigger and we missed 2 damage, both of which could have been the difference maker in the game. Thankfully for us, it was not. So definitely a couple teachable moments there. Those aren't things that I think were a consequence of my unfamiliarity with the deck. I was just kind of talking and playing quickly right at the end of the league, as sometimes will happen to any content creator. But this was a league that was bookended by 2 very satisfying wins against MDFC combo decks. I guess in round 1, maybe it wasn't as satisfying because the opponent, I think, just kind of misplayed in game 2 and then conceded, but we will take it. We also had a very interesting and very hard-fought win against Mill. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I literally always beat Mill, and it's literally always that close. That's just like that deck exists in a weird spot for me where that is always the outcome. At every point against Mill, I'm like, okay, well, I think we just lose. And at every point against Mill, by the end of it, I'm seeing the won the match message. It's uncanny. I think I'm like 15-0 against Mill, and that's not a brag, you know? I'm probably 0-15 against some other archetypes. It's just one of those weird things that's partially a consequence maybe of how black-based mid-range lines up against it, that the games are bound to be close, and we do have the edge, and then there's the uncanny aspect of it just always seeming to go that way, not even most of the time, always. So that's just a bizarre anomaly in my Magic career, I guess. And then the bad news, the losses, well, I honestly don't think there was much we could do about them. The M. Hayashi deck nut drew us and curved out really, really well. They had all of the sideboard answers they needed to our deck. And it's unfortunate that our deck happens to be vulnerable to both Shattering Spree and Kozilek's Return, both of which are well positioned in the meta right now. I guess that's a downside to Deadguy in addition to some other downsides of it being just like a little slow, lacking the premier threats maybe, as we talked about a little bit in the deck tech. We just have the chance of walking into the hate cards like we did here today. And then the less said about the Steel Shaper's gift deck, the better. Game 1 was absolutely stolen from us as far as I can tell. I don't think we did anything wrong. I think the opponent's only top deck that steals the game on the spot and punishes us for tapping out, which again I believe to be correct, was exactly Pure Steel Paladin. I think we'd even already killed one, so they had only 3 lethal top decks, as far as I know. Maybe I'm incorrect about that. In game 2, they just had a nut draw. They just drew really well off the top. They kept drawing really well after keeping an opening hand that was already hard to contend with. But, you know, if we had won that game 1, who knows what happens in game 3. I think that's a winnable matchup for us. It should be, right? It should be. We are a Stoneforge Mystic deck too. We have Disruption that is quite relevant. And honestly, the M. Hayashi deck is winnable as well, but not against the opponent's progression. So all in all, we cash the league with Deadguy, which I will always take. We get some really stylish wins in some places, and we get some really hard-fought close wins in others. And the losses came to decks that are pretty cool in my book, and that also drew really well against us. So what did we like here? Honestly, I was a big fan of the Klings and the Cremates. This was not even like the perfect league to showcase them, right? We didn't really have issues curving out. Our issues ended up being with the opponent's draws more than with our own. But Deadguy will often have issues curving out. We don't have card selection. We don't have cantrips either, unless we're playing a 5 Cling build like I did today. And a big, big weakness of Deadguy is the clunk. So Cling and Cremate, smoothing out the clunk, we didn't even need that here. We also were not against decks that used the graveyard all that much overall. But nevertheless, the cards felt great. I think this is a really good configuration to keep in the back pocket for black-based midrange in general. When these effects are well positioned in the meta, you can definitely opt for them and have a lot of additional upside in terms of registering them, in terms of how they help you curve out. But we already went over all that. But anyway, I think the Clings and the Cremates were good performers. I'll probably put Cremate on the cover because it is cool, but Cling was MVP just because it was able to be escaped, of course, a couple times against Mill. Stoneforge Mystic was great, especially finishing off the league by dual-wielding both swords. You can't get any more Deadguy ale than that. Lingering Souls showed its worth with some efficiency. Our Disruption was good. Dark Confidant was quite good. As far as the sideboard goes, I don't know. I guess Field of Ruin is probably the next best card. Maybe we can put that on the cover as well. We'll see what all looks well together. But that was a fun league, in my estimation. I hope it was for you as well. I don't know if it made me want to pick Deadguy back up again immediately. Like, I'm not feeling the eagerness to, like, make a couple tweaks and go back into a league. I think I'd rather go back to playing BGX, frankly, like, in the immediate near future. But it was good to touch base with this archetype. It was good to test out Skyclave Apparition, who was okay here. Didn't really set the world on fire. And again, that's kind of in line with my predictions. So I'm feeling relatively good about the list that we came together and designed, and with my assessment of the relative strengths and weaknesses of Deadguy Ale. It's a real deck. You could not always have said that in Modern, and now we can say for sure it is a real deck, and there's enough flexibility that you can tune it for metas. So if you want to test it out, I think this is a great way to do so. And Adam, I hope you enjoyed this one, my friend. This league, again, was for Adam Bush. Big shout out to you, and big shout out to our new and upgraded patrons that we shouted out in the deck tech. And finally, just thank you to all Patreon supporters in general and to viewers of the channel. Let me know what you think about this list in the comments section, and I hope to see you for the next video. Until then, take care.